morning. I am Dr. Manda, Dean College of Medicine and the Director of the Center for Advanced Simulation in Healthcare. And on behalf of the President and Provost of this Gulf Medical University, I welcome you all to the first conference on recent trends in clinical skills in simulation medical education. Well, this could be a very simulated welcome address, because I'm going to give the real welcome address during the presentation ceremony where I formally welcome you all. This is to kickstart the academic program now with a panel of international speakers from various professional bodies related to simulation coming and giving keynote addresses in this today. The program is going to be, there's going to be 3 keynote addresses in the morning, followed by a presentation ceremony. We have a chief guest from the Ministry of Health, and that will be followed by one more keynote address, lunch, and there's going to be the final payoffs of the MedSim Olympics, followed by 2 more keynote addresses. So this is going to be, in brief, the program for the day. And I hope you all have received your program. Without much ado, I'm going to invite Dr. Tim Christensen, who is from the Department of Pediatrics, and Daniel.
Thank you for the nice introduction, Professor. Thank you for the invitation here to, this is my first time in UAE, and I'm looking very much forward to share some of my thoughts on simulation-based team training with you. There will be some time for questions in the end of my presentation, which I hope the team training we did a thorough needs analysis. Now, if you do postgraduate training, needs analysis, as well as pre-graduate training you do here, the needs analysis is the key to how to design your simulation-based team training course. And the needs, briefly here, was midwives not being aware how to use the newest equipment. Another need was, well, the teams is always a new team as well. Our participants need to be able to transfer all the learning into practice. And in order to do so, briefing on non-technical skills. Do a performance evaluation is highlighted here. And we do perinatal audits whenever it goes right or goes well with a neonate. No, certainly none of us would have Mr. Bean taking care of us. And I'm sure he's not going to be in the Olympics later today. That would usually be calling the neonatal response team. Now, neonatal emergencies can take place in the delivery room, in the OR. And the other brother has similar fine, knowledgeable competencies. Now, Clumsy Hands had none of this. So the father gave the 2 knowledgeable brothers each a beautiful horse, and for Hans there was just a goat, but he decided to go anyway. When they show and you have to notice that the goal here is actually to take for husband the man who had the most to say for himself. And in front of the princess, the 2 knowledgeable guys are performing really poorly, because actually the princess is not interested at all in knowledge, she's interested in performance. And he's performing so well and improvising a lot. And you know, the end of the story is that he gets the princess in performance. So performance is king, he becomes king. Performance is king, knowledge is maybe queen. And by that I would say Chopin view. The pediatric dosages, which is really hard to remember as cognitive aids. But the thing is that when you do simulation-based training, you see how actually you can notice as an instructor, you'll be able to notice how people actually use the cognitive aids. Maybe you post all sorts of posters and notebooks, and they maybe use their smartphones as well. But you will see
in administrative and legal troubles. So naturally, we are trying to hide it, to avoid a problem for me or for one of my colleagues. Okay? And in this way, we are losing the importance of learning by studying our mistakes.
reports, and according to what me and my colleagues pick up from the clinical work. So it's reflecting the real life issue.
If you did a mistake, you might be under arrest.
I am more of a simulator director because my team takes care of everything. And by default, I became the director because College of Medicine utilizes the center to the maximum. And the areas I'm going to cover in my talk is going to be on introduction, background, scope of integrating simulation-based medical education and the impact of the same on learning, teaching, learning. Well, Gulf Medical University attracts students from more than 70 different nationalities from all over the world. We have 5 academic units: College of Medicine, College of Arts and Sciences, Pharmacy, Dentistry, and Graduate Studies. And the simulation, the Center for Advanced Simulation and Healthcare, caters to all the colleges in the university. We have the Center for Continuing Education and Community Outreach facility being inaugurated by none other than His Highness Sheikh Ahmed bin Rashid Al Nahyan, Supreme Council member and ruler of Ajman. Our mission is to create a safe, controlled, and non-threatening environment for health professionals to teach, train, and assess the cognitive, psychomotor, and affective domains, ensuring high-quality patient care and safety using various simulation technologies. So our vision is, of course, patient safety, as Tim had already mentioned. That is our ultimate outcome. We are professional members of Society in Europe for Simulation Applied to Medicine, Simulation Australasia, Association of Standardized Patient Education, Society for Simulation Healthcare, Canadian Network for Simulation Healthcare, and Association for Simulated Practice in Healthcare. We have some of the international teams from these societies here with us today. This is our outcomes and the extent to which simulation-based medical education could fulfill our program learning outcomes. To a large extent, it takes care of the communication clinical skills, knowledge to an extent, research and analytical skills, but there is a lot of emphasis on professional human values, patient care, leadership and teamwork, and personal development. So to a large extent, we are able to meet our program learning outcomes using using simulation-based medical education. This is one of the pedagogy we use to achieve our outcomes. Initially, we had discipline-based, now it's all about system-based, and it is here clinical skills which is integrated, and to a large extent we use cash in the phase 2 of our program. If you look at it, we have in phase 1, we have early patient contact, and about the number of clinical hours is less. So we have an accident and emergency unit, and the scope of teaching learning is accident and trauma management, crisis resource management, interprofessional team training, and patient trial and management of acute emergencies. So we have both high fidelity and low fidelity managements. In the laboratory, the scope of teaching and learning is safe use of laboratory equipment, universal precautions, personal protective devices and equipment, handling specimens and hazardous waste materials, laboratory procedures ranging from specimen collection, processing, analysis, and storage, transport.
It's an impact to the public also. But I wanted to know for the impact of this, what assessment tool you used. Was it a questionnaire or their performance?
It was the student feedback. This was the student feedback, what we projected. But ultimately, it is the performance. Everyone learns uniformly. That's important. That's the advantage. Again, want to emphasize, this is not a replacement for the clinical training they get in real patients. So much of our simulation-based education is on the preclinical years, so that they're confident enough to face the real patients when they go to the clinical years. So
at the lecture level, I was once a student back in 1998 until 2003. And my name is Ayad, and I'm 11 years old, adolescent in my career life. I started with emergency medicine as a specialty, and 8 years back, I chose medical education and drifted. My passion called me, and I've continued really in medical education. What I would like to know before I start is this getting ready? Yeah, I would like you to look at the packages with you. Do you find papers? I will need later. So fidelity is to describe the simulators that we use and how accurate they are in expressing reality or mimicking the patient's presentation. Authenticity, when you go back to the dictionary, is the genuine character of something, and we usually use it to describe learning. So when learning is authentic, means learning is genuine and is very similar and serving what is going to happen in the clinical practice. To say that simulation can replace clinical practice. However, it's repeatedly depends on high technology, materialism through simulation.
On behalf of the Gulf Medical University and the Center for Advanced Simulation in Healthcare, it's a great honor to welcome each one of you to this session for the first annual conference being organized on clinics, where we had about 6 teams contested, and we were witnessing 3 teams vying for the championship. The faculty who have been invited, Ms. Kerry Hamilton from the United Kingdom, Mr. Guillaume from Ahmad Medical Corporation, Qatar, basically from the United Kingdom, Professor Robert O'Brien from Australia, Dr. Tim Christensen from Denmark, and our own Professor Manda Venkatramanna from the Gulf Medical University, CASH, and our alumni, very proud. Thank you. And we welcome our session. Professor College of Medicine and the Director, Center for Advanced Simulation in Healthcare, Gulf Medical University, Professor Manda Venkatramanna, to please come on stage to propose a brief welcome.
Thank you, Ravi. Respected Chief Guest of the day, His Excellency Yusuf Sarkar, Assistant Under Secretary for Hospital Sectors, Ministry of Health, United Arab Emirates, respected Founder President and Chairman, Board of Governors, our esteemed Provost, Gulf Medical University, Director of the Healthcare, Tumbe Group, Mr. Akbar Moiti, Mrs. Zaira Hilali, Territory Director for American Heart Association, the MENA region, guest speakers, deans of colleges, directors of hospitals, faculty, students, and ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, and a very good morning to you all today. On behalf of our Founder President and the Provost, it's my honor to welcome one and all to Gulf Medical University.
Assistant Under Secretary for Hospital Sector, Ministry of Health, thank you so very much, Your Excellency, for being with. Next request, Professor Ali. One of the best simulation experts from Moffat Hospital, Abu Dhabi. Representative from Al Mazrui, I request we would like to thank our founder president, Mr. Tumbe Moiti, for gracing the occasion and inspiring us by their presence.
Approach and also in terms of the technology used. Introduce the notion of co-learning and community of practice, both aspects from the learner point of view, but also from the educator aspect, and highlight some of the potential barriers that people have experienced. So ISL is a subset of IP. It's IP in the context of simulation learning. These are, this is the definition from the KED website. So IP occurs when 2 or more professions learn from about each other to improve collaboration.
It is going to be for 1 hour, 20 minutes each for each team. So may I take the honor, please welcome the team from Mafraq Hospital, Abu Dhabi, to be the first commentators for this medicine Olympic trophy.
Please don't help each other. I'll draw the scenario to you now. You have a 52-year-old male who presents to the emergency department complaining that while on his morning walk, he suddenly felt his heart begin to beat fast. This happened about an hour back. He feels discomfort in his chest, but there is no pain. His heart rate is 170 per minute. Blood pressure is 110/70. Respiration is 16 per minute. Oxygen saturation 97.
Hi, I am Dr. Hussain. I come to help you. How are you?
My heart is racing very fast, doctor.
So far it does. Oxygen is connected.
Yes, sir.
9 no complex. Okay. No.
I still feel the same, doctor.
Again, all filing was. What do you think? What do you think? Maybe he develops his pain here. Initially, he feels the heart is fast.
We'll have to do the VBG just to check his electrolytes.
Yeah, we can do one EBG or EBG if you can. And for first, it could be hyperkalemia, could be acidosis, could be coronary thrombosis, BE.
Okay, VBG taken.
Okay, just to you.
About tension in the thorax. What is just
Yeah. Okay, remind me last time adrenaline level.
2 minutes since the last switch.
Okay, stop switch. Analyze.
Analyze.
Okay, should be right. Patient. Okay, we have organized data now. Can check the pulse, please.
Cardiac pulse is present but weak.
Pulse is there.
Got it.
Is he breathing?
Okay, no breathing.
Not breathing.
No better patient. Okay. But he remains comatose. No any movement, nothing. Continue. I will check blood pressure, please. Okay, I need for the ECG. Okay, and
We'll start with cold fluids.
start hypothermia. Okay. Okay, ECG come.
Shiva, 7.6 milligram. Ali, I know what you want to have a reason for which your symptoms that you're having is because of your heart rate.
Sanjay is ready.
Okay, which will actually make your heart rate. So that I just want you to, it might actually revert. It seems to be having narrow complex cell. I think we'll go at 6 milligrams. If it actually causes some discomfort, it might make you feel that it's just last for a couple of seconds. I think you can go ahead and dose it rapid.
6 mg IV rapidly and then oversalide.
This is
Just as pain, I feel difficulty in breathing.
don't worry, can you get a quick medication? Seems to be sleep, I think, dropping. Face mask, starting. Yes. I would want you to prepare and
12 milligram Adidas.
I would want you to prepare. Okay.
Yes, sir. Injection IV.
How are you feeling, Ali? Okay, don't worry. Ali should be unstable. They prepare for immediate start at 120. Things should be unstable, narrow. Prepare for you can administer rapid and
12 milligram rapid flash.
you can prepare 2 milligrams.
2 milligram of midazolam.
Ali, okay, he seems to Ali.
I feel very bad, doctor.
So do not administer the shock. 0.6 milligram or 0.5.
Okay, okay. 0.5 milligram.
And get transmitted.
I will put it. Injection atropine is ready.
For 0.5 mg of atropine.
Injection atropine 0.5 followed by flash.
How are you feeling, Ali?
Just is paining a lot.
Is it 3,000 given? Atropine given?
Just 1.5 minutes.
Breathing in. Saturation is not oxygen. You feeling now? Ali? Okay, fine. Jomi, I want you to start innovations. Wake up, defibrillation at 200 joules. We will secure the airway and start back. Shiva, I want to get that is taken.
200 joules is ready.
You can proceed to Shiva.
3 of skill choking, shock delivery.
Cardiac compression, high quality chest compressions, in load, 1 chest compressions and these two group. You can even put this up, and you will realize the looking area.
This is the last shot.
Switch roles that analyze the patient still seems to be patients. Vega, I wanted to 200 joules.
200 joules.
15, 20, 22.
Clear. 1 oxygen off, choking.
Two chest compressions. With administering 1 milligram plus.
IV, ball as well of normal saline.
You can prepare.
300 milligram for
Going on, I wanted to interminate, push these meters.
So I've got a situation of quite a receipt of antibiotics. Hi sir, how's it going? How are you feeling? Is he verbalising to me? Okay, Mike.
Let's get a blood pressure on this guy.
Just swap in these sites.
Is he speaking English?
Patient speaks English.
Hi there sir, how are you feeling?
I'm not pacing very fast, otherwise I'm fine.
Okay, that's great.
So there's going to be a little pinch in your arm here for a second.
Okay.
He has a very feminine voice. Do you want me to stand right here in front of the fine vendors? Right there. Lines in running.
Yes.
Okay. What's the prep? 6 milligrams of adenosine. Peter, for a patient, medication.
Can you speak loud, please, so the judges can hear?
Hey my friend, my name's Peter. I'm giving you some medication that's going to make you feel a little bit yucky, but we're hoping that it's going to...
Real people. Now, I'm not talking about real patients. I'm talking about real people. So, not ill. There's an international problem with nomenclature. Many of you will be aware of this. When do we call these people simulated patients? When do we call them standardised age? The association for simulated practice in healthcare. This is the association in the United Kingdom that really oversees what's happening with simulation in our country. It informs organisations like honey sim patients. Why am I uncomfortable with the term sim? And then, yeah, I know simulation technology organisms living in close physical association, typically to the advantage of both, and a mutually beneficial relationship between different people or groups. Yeah, that is symbiotic. Mutually beneficial relationship between sim technology and using real people. And in the middle there, we've got two terms that you've already heard this morning, particularly hybrid. Hybrid simulation.
Stanley, I really want to applaud the amount of work and the kind of setup that you're doing. But I just want to find out as to What are the ethical considerations when you're using real patients? Real people for simulation that. We worked long and hard with our trust, our hospital solicitors, with the ethics committee. We've taken it to the Royal College of Paediatrics, actually, because we wanted to really get going using the paediatrics, particularly in the trauma ones. But the same applies to adults. We've taken it to a number of conferences now, and everybody is quite comfortable. And if you look at Beauchamp and Childress's
and the use of behavioural psychology to look at the way we do things, why we do our program, they wanted to look at curriculum, and they wanted to look at embedding simulation in a clinical training program. And they're two really important things. We need to know that we look at our curriculum, scientific convener. I tried to manipulate and set up
We have come to the most exciting part of this interview. So, may I request Dr. Kiran Khan to welcome our sportsman spirit.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Very exciting experience for us. First time we are conducting the Medicine Olympics 2015. And as I mentioned in my welcome address, it's going to be an annual event. And as I mentioned, about 5 teams had initially registered for this. The preliminary rounds were done last week.
I'm sure from what I hear or have heard, it was very well organized and everything went off as planned without a hitch, and in spite of the large numbers participating, and every participant has put in his or her best into which gives them more and more confidence to move on and eventually be ready for real life encounters. I believe all the teams did extremely well and participated very actively. And when it's about champions, it's always the people who perform the best. Everything goes on as planned, and I'm sure they would be resting easy at the end of the day that finally it went off well, and then maybe they can have time to share the curates which will be eventually offered. Again, a pleasure to meet all of you and address each one of you, and I hope to give out the awards today to the winners. Thank you.
I'm thinking that, but so don't error, I just have to stand. Yes, we were all given a person undertake watch. So moving around and see exactly what every absolute pleasure for us, a wonderful, wonderful Olympics. Right, this position, and I just need this. I'm about to announce the silver position. I might add that there was very few points between silver and bronze. And the silver position is Al Mafraq. It gives me great the Medicine 2015.
Dr. Sergio and team, and I request all the teachers to please